The moment the prison gate clanged shut behind him, Ling Zichen did not look back. The heavy thud of the iron door closing was like a muffled thunderclap hitting his chest. He stood outside the prison gate, clutching his release papers in one hand, still wearing the same gray jacket he had on when he went in. The 312 yuan in his pocket was all the belongings the guards had counted and returned to him when he was locked up. The sun stung his eyes so much he had to squint. In a whole year, he had never seen light this bright. There was no one outside waiting for him. No one came to pick him up. He stood there for less than 2 minutes, then flagged down a taxi. The driver asked, "Where to?"
"The airport."
Ling Zichen's voice was flat, as if he were talking about something that had nothing to do with him. During that year inside, he had figured out one thing. This city had never been his home.
He was born here, grew up here, got married here, and got locked up here.
But the city did not owe him anything. It was people who owed him, not the place. The car threaded through the streets of Haicheng. Outside the window, familiar buildings receded one after another, as if peeling away every last piece of his 26 years of life. He did not spare them a single extra glance. At the airport, he walked to the ticket counter and used those 300 and some yuan to buy a one-way ticket to Bangkok. The leftover change bought a bottle of water and a bag of bread. He was not hungry, but he knew he needed to stay alive. The departure hall was full of people coming and going.
No one noticed him.
He had lost a full 15 kilograms, his cheekbones jutting out, his eye sockets sunken deep. He looked nothing like the man he had been before prison. He went to the restroom, splashed water on his face, and stared at his reflection in the mirror for a long time. From this moment on, Ling Zichen is dead. He said it very calmly, like reciting a line he had rehearsed long ago. Then he turned and walked toward the boarding gate without looking back. As the plane took off, the roar of the engines made the fuselage tremble. He sat by the window watching Haicheng shrink smaller and smaller below, until it faded into a blurry outline beneath the clouds and disappeared completely. He felt no hatred, no resentment. All his emotions seemed to have been hollowed out. The only thing left inside his empty body was one single resolve. He was going to survive, and survive so well that no one could ever touch him again. The airport in Bangkok was sticky with heat. He got off the plane with only a few yuan left in his pocket, not even enough for a bowl of noodles. He crouched in the airport bathroom, washed his face, dried it with a paper towel, then walked into the arrival hall, lay down on a bench, and fell asleep. The next morning, he started working. His first job was washing dishes in a Chinese restaurant. The owner was a man from Fujian who took one look at how gaunt and hollowed out he was, and did not want to hire him. Ling Zichen said he did not need wages, just food and a place to sleep. The owner hesitated for a few seconds, then nodded. He stayed at that restaurant for 3 months, working his way up from dishwasher to chopping and prepping, then to the wok. The chef said the kid was crazy, sleeping only 4 hours a night and spending the rest of his time standing in front of the stove. He learned fast and had a sharp memory. While others took 3 years to become a proper cook, he had Thai cuisine more or less figured out in 3 months. Later, the owner wanted to take him on as an apprentice. He refused, saying he wanted to go out and make his own way. Bangkok's Chinatown was chaotic, full of all kinds of people. He switched jobs several times and did every kind of hard labor there was, hauling cargo at the docks, setting up stalls at the night market, running errands, and making deliveries. He lived in the cheapest tin-roofed shack. When the rainy season came, water flooded the room, so he propped up his bed with bricks and went back to sleep. He saved his money coin by coin. In the first year, he saved 50,000 Thai baht. In the second year, 200,000. In the third year, he put all his savings into buying a failing freight company. Company was a generous word. It was 3 old pickup trucks and a business license. He drove the routes himself, doing the work of 3 men alone. He left at 5 in the morning and came back at midnight. During the busiest stretch, he once drove 36 hours straight without closing his eyes. When he did not understand Thai, he learned it word by word. When he did not know anyone, he paid his respects door to door. The Chinese circle in Chinatown was not that big, and soon everyone had heard about this mainland kid who worked like he had no fear of death. By the 4th year, his freight company had grown from 3 pickup trucks to 17. The business expanded from Bangkok to Chiang Mai, and from Chiang Mai to the Lao border. He renamed the company Huafeng Logistics and registered it under a brand new legal entity. The name he wrote down was Xiao Yichen. From that point on, no one ever called him Ling Zichen again. By the 5th year of Huafeng, He no longer drove the routes himself. He took the money he had saved and invested in a nearly bankrupt trading company next door. It turned a profit in 6 months and tripled its revenue within a year. After that, he moved into real estate, acquiring a plot of land on the outskirts of the city, building 2 apartment blocks, and selling them out within 3 months of launch. The business world began to notice this man. No one knew where he came from. They only knew his surname was Xiao, that he acted decisively, that his moves were surgically precise, and that every deal seemed to land at exactly the right moment. Some said he had powerful connections. Some said he was just lucky. Some even said he had ties to the military. Xiao Yichen never explained any of it. In 5 years, he proved one thing. If a man is willing to risk everything, there is no such thing as a situation he cannot turn around. By the 6th year, Huafeng Group was no longer just a small logistics company. Its reach extended into trade, real estate, finance, and supply chain management. It controlled 7 holding companies and held stakes in 13 others, with total assets exceeding 20 billion yuan, spread across Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, and Malaysia. The Chinese business circles in Southeast Asia hailed him as a rising star, but everyone found this man excessively mysterious. He never attended Chamber of Commerce banquets, refused all media interviews, and the executive profile on the company website listed nothing but his name and title, not even a photo.
No one knew what he was waiting for.
6 years later, Haicheng, a black Maybach, pulled up outside the Starlight International Hotel. The doorman opened the door, and Xiao Yichen stepped out from the back seat, fastened the second button of his suit jacket, and looked up at the 40-story glass tower in front of him. The sky in Haicheng was still that same gray, overcast haze. The air carried that same damp, fishy tang, exactly the same as 6 years ago.
Mr.
Xiao, the Starlight International Hotel is right ahead. His assistant, a Liang, leaned out from the front passenger seat, holding a tablet. Tonight's class reunion is booked in the 3rd floor banquet hall. It starts at 7:30. 47 people are expected to attend, including your ex-wife, Song Qingyi. Do you need me to accompany you?
No. Wait in the car.
A Liang had worked for him for 4 years. He knew exactly what that tone meant. Do not ask a single unnecessary word. Xiao Yichen walked into the lobby. The front desk manager recognized him and hurried over. Mr.
Xiao, welcome.
Your presidential suite on the top floor is ready. Who booked the 3rd floor banquet hall? The manager flipped through the records and said, a Mr. Zhao Jinyu. He said it's for a class reunion. Put it on my tab. The manager froze for a second, then nodded rapidly. Of course, Mr.
Xiao! Right away.
As the elevator went up, Xiao Yichen adjusted his tie in the reflection on the stainless steel door panel. The man in the mirror bore no resemblance whatsoever to the emaciated prisoner who had walked out of jail 6 years ago. 90 kilograms, a tailored navy blue suit, a Patek Philippe on his wrist, sharp angular features, a high brow bone, a straight nose, the corners of his mouth slightly downturned, as if he had been born without the ability to smile. The elevator stopped on the 3rd floor. As soon as the doors opened, the clamor from the banquet hall surged out. The door was half open. Inside, he could see 5 large round tables with roughly 30 or 40 people seated at them. Some were toasting, some were chatting, and some were scrolling on their phones. At the center of the innermost table sat a woman. A black slip dress, hair pinned up, a single strand of pearls around her neck. Song Qingyi. Compared to 6 years ago, she had aged a little. Fine lines had appeared at the corners of her eyes, and when she smiled, there was a trace of weariness at the corner of her mouth. But she was still beautiful, still poised, still the kind of woman who drew every eye in the room the moment she sat down.
Song Qingyi.
His ex-wife. The woman who had sobbed uncontrollably in court. The woman who had personally carried box after box of company transfer records, contract documents, and so-called evidence to the witness stand. The woman who, after the verdict was read, had walked up to the defendant's dock, looked down at him and said, Ling Zichen, go to hell.
You are already dead.
And I am already dead.
Xiao Yichen pushed the door open and walked in. The noise at the door first drew the attention of the table closest to the entrance, then the second table, and then the entire banquet hall fell silent.
You're...
Class monitor Zheng Wu walked over, holding a wine glass. He sized Xiao Yichen up, his expression shifting from confusion to shock.
Ling
Zichen?
The entire room went completely quiet in an instant. Everyone turned to look. Xiao Yichen smiled and extended his hand. Zheng Wu, long time no see. But I changed my name. I go by Xiao Yichen now. Zheng Wu gripped his hand, his mouth opening and closing several times without managing to produce a single word. People nearby began to murmur.
Ling Zichen, wasn't he in prison?
I heard he got sentenced to a year and then vanished off the face of the earth.
How did he end up like this?
Hes completely unrecognizable. Song Qingyi stood up. Her chair scraped back across the tile floor with a sharp, piercing sound that cut through the quiet banquet hall. She stared straight at the door, her eyes wide, filled with shock, panic, and something else. Something impossible to name. Xiao Yichen gave her a slight nod, polite and distant, the kind of nod you give a stranger. Then he walked to the innermost table, took the seat Zheng Wu had arranged for him and sat down, right across from Song Qingyi. The entire evening he chatted with the old classmates sitting beside him, catching up on what everyone had been up to over the years, talking about industry trends, making idle small talk that meant nothing. When someone asked where he had been all these years, he said he was running a small business in Southeast Asia. When someone asked if he was married, he shook his head and said no. Song Qingyi's gaze was nailed to him like a spike. For the entire evening, she never once looked away. She barely touched her food, but drank glass after glass of red wine, until an unnatural flush rose to her cheeks. Near the end of the evening, she finally made her move. Song Qingyi stood up holding her wine glass, walked around half the table, and stopped right in front of him. Everyone in the room was watching her. She stood. He sat. She looked down at him, her eyes rimmed red, tears welling up inside them, her lips trembling uncontrollably. Zichen. Her voice was very soft, but in the hushed banquet hall it was startlingly clear.
Do you still hate me?
She reached out and grabbed his sleeve. Her fingertips were ice cold and trembling so hard that her nails nearly dug through the fabric, as if she was terrified he might vanish the very next second.
The banquet hall was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioning.
Xiao Yichen looked at this woman standing before him, at her red-rimmed eyes, her trembling lips, the hand clutching his sleeve with all its might. Then he stood up. He was half a head taller than her. He looked down into her eyes, his voice calm, every single word enunciated with absolute clarity.
Ma'am, you've mistaken me for someone else.
My surname is Xiao.
He pulled his sleeve out of her grip. The gesture was very light, but it held no hesitation whatsoever. Song Qingyi's hand hung frozen in midair. The tears finally fell, rolling down her cheeks and splashing onto the tablecloth, where they bloomed into several dark wet spots. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but all that came out was a hoarse, broken syllable. Xiao Yichen picked up the napkin from the table, folded it neatly, set it down, and addressed the entire room. His voice was not loud, but it pressed down on all the background noise. Old classmates, it's been a real pleasure seeing everyone today. I have some matters to attend to, so I need to leave a bit early. Another day I'll host and treat everyone to a proper get-together. No one said a word. He turned and headed for the door. Ling Zichen, you stop right there. A shrill, tear-choked scream came from behind him.
You are Ling Zichen?
Why won't you acknowledge me?
Xiao Yichen did not break his stride. He pushed the door open with one hand and strode out. The door swung shut behind him, locking Song Qingyi's sobs inside the banquet hall. The hallway was long, covered in a deep red carpet, with crystal wall sconces casting light onto the walls. It was almost unnaturally quiet. A Liang emerged from the stairwell and fell into step behind him. Mr.
Xiao, the car is already waiting at the entrance.
Back to the room.
The elevator rose to the top floor. Xiao Yichen swiped his keycard and pushed open the door of the suite. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, the night view of Haicheng unfurled before him. A million lights glowed like a sea of stars. He stood at the window, looking at the city where he had lived for over 20 years. And suddenly the memory of that night 7 years ago came flooding back. That night Song Qingyi had looked at him with those same red-rimmed eyes. But what she had said was not, "Do you still hate me?"
What she said was, "Ling Zichen, how could you do this?
How could you cheat my father out of his money?
How could you betray me?
He had told her he did not do it. She did not believe him.
She chose to believe someone else.
The doorbell rang. Xiao Yichen frowned, walked to the door, and looked through the peephole. Song Qingyi was standing in the hallway, leaning against the wall, her hair half undone, her makeup smeared, clutching her phone in one hand. She looked like a crumpled piece of paper, ready to be blown away by the wind. She had found his room. Xiao Yichen stood behind the door and did not open it. Through the door, he heard her phone ring. She answered, her voice hoarse beyond belief.
I know Hes on the top floor.
"I'm not leaving. I'll wait until he comes out." She hung up, slid down the wall, and sat on the hallway carpet, wrapping her arms around her knees and burying her face in them. Her shoulders shook uncontrollably. A Liang walked over from the living room, glanced at the door, then at Xiao Yichen, and said nothing. After a long while, Xiao Yichen spoke. Put the files on Song Group on my desk. I want them first thing tomorrow morning. Outside in the hallway, it was quiet for about 20 minutes. Through the door, he could hear Song Qingyi's broken, intermittent sobs. Occasionally, a passing guest would stop and ask if she was all right. Each time, a Liang politely intervened at the door and said, "There's nothing to see here. Please move along." Song Qingyi did not leave. She just sat there on the hallway carpet, as if she had nowhere else to go. At 1:20 in the morning, a sudden flurry of sharp, rapid footsteps came from the far end of the hallway, the sound of high heels clicking faster and faster, carrying a barely contained fury. Then came a man's low, furious roar.
Song Qingyi, what are you doing sitting outside another man's hotel room door?
Have you lost your mind?
It was Zhao Jinyu, Song Qingyi's classmate, Song Qingyi's current husband, and the key witness in that commercial fraud case 7 years ago.
The voices in the hallway grew louder.
Zhao Jinyu cursed her for embarrassing him and making a spectacle of herself.
Song Qingyi sobbed that she just wanted to see him one time.
Zhao Jinyu sneered and said, "See him? What's there to see about a loser who's been to prison?" Xiao Yichen turned around, walked to the door, and yanked it open. The hallway lights were blindingly bright. Zhao Jinyu was wearing a dark gray overcoat, his hair slicked back so shiny it gleamed. One hand was clamped tightly around Song Qingyi's arm, squeezing so hard the skin of her arm turned white. His face wore that condescending, sharp sneer. When he saw Xiao Yichen pull the door open, Zhao Jinyu froze for a second. Then a mocking smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. He looked Xiao Yichen up and down, his gaze pausing for a split second on the wristwatch, his pupils contracting slightly, but the disdainful expression quickly returned. All dressed up and looking the part. Must have eaten well in prison, huh?
Song Qingyi yanked her arm free from Zhao Jinyu's grip and stared at Xiao Yichen with red-rimmed eyes, her lips moving but making no sound.
Xiao Yichen leaned against the doorframe, looking at Zhao Jinyu, and said absolutely nothing.
What? Don't recognize me?
Zhao Jinyu took half a step closer, his voice dropping to a low growl, carrying a venom that had been suppressed for too long. "Ling Zichen, I was the one who put you away back then.
Your company was taken by me.
Your wife was married by me.
No matter how fancy you dress up, in my eyes you will always be nothing but a stray dog." Song Qingyi grabbed Zhao Jinyu's sleeve and said, "Zhao Jinyu, stop it." Zhao Jinyu flung her hand off and kept his glare fixed on Xiao Yichen. "You showed up at the class reunion tonight just to see her regret it, didn't you? She regrets it. Are you satisfied? But she's still my wife, Zhao Jinyu's wife.
Song Group is still mine.
And you, Ling Zichen, you are nothing."
The hallway was dead silent for a few seconds.
Xiao Yichen looked into Zhao Jinyu's eyes.
All he saw was smugness, contempt, and a flicker of unease hidden at the very bottom. Zhao Jinyu was testing him, wanting to see Xiao Yichen lose control, wanting to prove that the man standing in front of him was still the same Ling Zichen from 7 years ago, the one who could be trampled on at will.
Xiao Yichen smiled. Not a bitter smile, not a cold sneer, but a very faint, almost pitying smile.
"Mr. Zhao," he said, "are you finished?" Zhao Jinyu was stunned. Xiao Yichen turned and walked back into the suite, picked up his phone from the coffee table, and dialed a number.
"General Manager Ma, this is Xiao Yichen.
I need a favor.
A fawning voice came through the speaker. "Mr. Xiao, anything you need, just name it. I was at the class reunion in your third-floor banquet hall earlier. Now I'm in the top-floor suite. There is a gentleman outside my door making a huge racket and disturbing my rest. Who is it? I'll handle it immediately. No rush just yet." Xiao Yichen glanced at Zhao Jinyu, who was still standing in the doorway. "This hotel was acquired by an offshore Southeast Asian company last year, correct?"
Yes, that's right.
"I am the actual controlling shareholder of that company. So, as a shareholder, please come up and have a chat with my friend here." He hung up the phone.
Zhao Jinyu's expression shifted.
It was not fear but shock, sheer disbelief. He stared at Xiao Yichen's phone as if trying to determine whether that call had been an act. 5 minutes later, General Manager Ma arrived. A heavy-set middle-aged man in his 50s, wearing pajamas under a hastily thrown-on trench coat, sweating profusely as if he had just run a marathon. Behind him were the hotel manager and 2 security guards. "Mr. Xiao, I'm so sorry. So terribly sorry you had to endure this." Manager Ma bowed repeatedly the moment he stepped through the door. Xiao Yichen pointed at Zhao Jinyu. "This Mr.
Zhao, please escort him out.
Also add him to the hotel blacklist. From now on, he is not allowed to set foot in this hotel." Manager Ma did not even glance at Zhao Jinyu. He turned directly to the manager and said, "You heard him.
Do it now."
Xiao Jinyu's face flushed bright red. He jabbed a shaking finger at Xiao Yichen and roared, "You think buying some crappy hotel makes you something special? Ling Zichen's Song Group has an annual revenue of 5 billion.
What do you have to fight me with?
Mr.
Xiao. Xiao Yichen stepped right up to him, his tone as casual as if he were discussing a trivial, insignificant matter. You are going to be very busy tomorrow. I suggest you go home right now and take a good, hard look at your financial statements." Xiao Jinyu's eyelid twitched violently.
What did you say?
Xiao Yichen did not answer. He turned on his heel and walked back into the room. Behind him, Manager Ma's voice said, "Mr. Zhao, please leave immediately, or I will call security." Song Qingyi's voice mixed in as well. "Jinyu, let's just go." Before the elevator doors closed, Xiao Yichen heard Xiao Jinyu throw out one last line in the hallway.
Ling Zichen, you just wait.
"Tomorrow you'll know what happens when you cross me." The door clicked shut. The voices in the hallway gradually faded. Xiao Yichen walked to the window and looked down. A few minutes later, he saw Xiao Jinyu dragging Song Qingyi out of the hotel entrance. Xiao Jinyu shoved her into a white Porsche Cayenne and slammed the door so hard the whole vehicle rocked. The headlights flared on, the engine roared, and the Porsche tore out of the parking lot. Sitting in the passenger seat, Song Qingyi turned her head and looked back toward the top floor of the hotel. Through 40 floors and an unfathomable darkness of night, he could not make out her expression, but he saw her press one palm against the car window, holding it there, all the way until the vehicle disappeared into the pitch-black distance. A Liang emerged from the shadows of the living room, tablet in hand.
Mr. Zhao, the financial data for the 3 subsidiaries under Xiao Jinyu's name has been compiled.
The tax violations are mainly tied to that East City project. The amount for falsified invoices is roughly 20 million. The complete chain of evidence is ready. It can be delivered to the Economic Crimes Division first thing tomorrow morning. He paused and swiped to the next page. Also, Song Group has a board meeting tomorrow to discuss the expansion plan for Southeast Asia operations.
Xiao Jinyu is supposed to negotiate a partnership at the meeting with a company called Taihua Communications.
A Liang let a tiny smirk show at the corner of his mouth.
That company is yours.
Xiao Yichen nodded but said nothing. A Liang tucked away the tablet and hesitated for a beat before asking a question he had no business asking.
Mr.
Xiao, Song Qingyi. She really does seem remorseful. Are you planning to—
A Liang.
Xiao Yichen cut him off. How many years have you worked for me? 4 years. In these 4 years, have you ever seen me make a move without having solid evidence first? No. Then you should know, I did not come back for revenge. He turned and looked out the window. In the distance, the lights of Haicheng Bridge traced a golden arc. Beneath it, the river water was ink black, like an enormous mirror catching the starlight scattered across the sky. I came back to take back what belongs to me. A Liang said nothing more. He bowed and withdrew. The room was quiet again. Xiao Yichen walked into the bathroom, turned on the faucet, and splashed cold water on his face. In the mirror, the man had cold eyes, a cold expression, and even his breath seemed to carry a chill. But only he himself knew that his fingertips were trembling. Not because of the image of Song Qingyi sitting on the floor in the hallway, but because he had suddenly remembered 7 years ago, the day of the sentencing, Song Qingyi had sat on the floor of the courthouse hallway just like that, hugging her knees, her face buried in her arms. He had thought she was crying. He had thought she regretted it. Only later did he find out that she was waiting for a phone call, waiting for Xiao Jinyu to tell her that it was done. And it was indeed done. He went to prison.
They got married.
Xiao Yichen walked out of the bathroom, picked up his phone, and sent a message to a number he had never saved. Proceed as planned tomorrow. The reply came instantly. Understood, boss. He turned off his phone, lay down on the bed, and closed his eyes. The image that surfaced in his mind was not the courtroom from 7 years ago, nor the iron bars of the prison, nor Song Qingyi's tear-streaked face. It was the back of his father, Ling Zichen. The last time he saw his father was at the entrance of the company.
His father looked back at him and said, "Zichen, your father believes in you."
The next day his father was gone. Car accident. Dead on the spot.
Everyone said it was an accident.
He did not believe it. His father had driven that road for 20 years. He knew every bend, every traffic hour, every point where he needed to slow down. He could recite it with his eyes closed. Unless someone had tampered with his car that morning. A document found in his father's car later became the core evidence Song Qingyi used to accuse him in court. He stared at the ceiling, his eyes wide open. 7 years ago he thought he had only lost a marriage, a company, and 1 year of freedom. 7 years later he finally understood that what he had lost was far, far more than that. It didn't matter.
Those things that people had taken from him, he would take them back, one by one.
The next morning at 9 o'clock, officers from the Economic Crimes Investigation Unit took Xiao Jinyu away. When a Liang knocked and came in, Xiao Yichen was standing by the floor-to-ceiling window drinking coffee. Black coffee, no sugar, scalding hot. Outside the window, Haicheng was bleached white by the sun, the traffic on the streets flowing like glowing rivers. Mr.
Xiao, the accounts of the East City branch have been frozen.
Xiao Jinyu was taken in for questioning and still hasn't come out.
And Song Qingyi?
At Song Group headquarters, there was supposed to be a board meeting today, but it was postponed after Xiao Jinyu's incident. A Liang paused. She called you 17 times. Xiao Yichen picked up his phone and glanced at it. 17 missed calls, all from Song Qingyi. Also 12 text messages. He did not open any of them. He deleted them all. Mr.
Xiao, internally, Song Group has already launched an investigation into Xiao Jinyu's case.
They suspect someone is pulling strings behind the scenes.
You are their #1 suspect.
Let them investigate.
One more thing.
A Liang opened his tablet. The representatives from Thailand's Huafeng Group are already here. The meeting is at 2 o'clock this afternoon in the hotel conference room. Song Group has no idea you are the owner of Huafeng. They sent a team to negotiate cooperation, led by their vice president, Song Qingyi.
Xiao Yichen lifted his eyes to look at a Liang.
A Liang added, she volunteered for it, said she wanted to use the opportunity to avoid the media pressure from the Xiao Jinyu situation, and also to see you alone. Xiao Yichen said nothing. He stood up and walked to the window. The sunlight was glaring, reflecting off the glass facade of the office building across the street in a blinding white sheet of light. The afternoon meeting went ahead as scheduled, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
The hotel's no
3 conference room. The room was not large, seating 20 people. The long table was covered with a dark tablecloth. In front of each seat were a bottle of mineral water and a meeting agenda. The projector was already on, displaying against a blue backdrop. Song Group and Thailand Huafeng Group Strategic Cooperation Negotiation Meeting. Xiao Yichen sat at the head of the long table, a Liang standing behind him. 6 people from Huafeng sat to either side: legal, finance, technical, marketing. Every single one of them was someone he had personally trained over the years in Southeast Asia. Any one of them could be pulled out and put in charge of an entire department on their own. The Song Group people had not yet arrived. At 2:05, the conference room door was pushed open. Song Qingyi walked in, followed by 5 people, 2 vice presidents, a legal director, a financial director, and a secretary. Today she was wearing a white tailored pantsuit, her hair pinned up, her makeup flawless, her posture sharp and confident. She looked nothing like the woman who had collapsed on the hallway floor crying the night before. But the moment her eyes landed on Xiao Yichen, that layer of ice cracked. Her steps faltered. Her pupils contracted sharply. The file folder in her hand was crumpled unconsciously, deep creases forming in the paper. The vice president behind her, completely oblivious to what was happening, continued briefing her on the situation.
Xiao Yichen stood up, his tone as if he were discussing an ordinary business deal.
President Song, welcome. Song Qingyi's lips moved as if she wanted to say something. In the end, she just nodded, opened her document pouch, and said, Miss Xiao, this is Song Group's cooperation proposal. Please take a look. She enunciated the 2 words Mr.
Xiao with deliberate emphasis.
A Liang took the document and placed it in front of Xiao Yichen. He did not open it. He looked straight at her. President Song, before we discuss cooperation, I need to confirm one thing. Please, go ahead. Who holds the actual decision-making power at Song Group right now?
Song Qingyi frowned.
I am the vice president in charge of Southeast Asia operations. I didn't ask for your job title. Xiao Yichen cut her off. I'm asking, do any decisions you make require Xiao Jinyu's approval first? The conference room went instantly silent. The expressions on the Song Group side all turned sour. Song Qingyi's fingers tapped twice lightly on the table, as if suppressing some emotion. Mr. Xiao, her voice dropped a register. President Zhao is unable to be here today due to personal reasons. I will relay his opinions on his behalf. Personal reasons? Xiao Yichen repeated the phrase, a faint hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. President Song, do you know exactly what kind of personal reasons President Zhao is dealing with today? Song Qingyi said nothing. He was taken in for questioning by the Economic Crimes Investigation Unit today. Xiao Yichen's voice was very calm, as if he were delivering a news bulletin. Suspected of issuing falsified invoices in the amount of 20 million. The Song Group side erupted.
The 2 vice presidents whispered frantically to each other.
The legal director pulled out his phone and began typing rapidly. The financial director's face went deathly pale. Song Qingyi's expression did not change, but the hand she had placed under the table clenched into a fist.
Mr.
Xiao, her voice was very taut. This is an internal matter for Song Group.
It does not require your concern.
Naturally, I won't concern myself with it.
Xiao Yichen smiled.
I'm simply not comfortable negotiating a deal worth tens of billions with a vice president who could be taken in for questioning at any moment. If, one day, this vice president is also invited for tea by the Economic Crimes Division, who is going to follow up on the project? He stood up, planting both hands on the table and leaning slightly forward. President Song, I did not come here today to talk about cooperation.
I came to inform you.
The Southeast Asia project has already been signed over to another company.
Song Group is out.
Dead silence filled the conference room. Song Qingyi's face first flushed red, then drained stark white. She shot to her feet so abruptly that her chair slid backward and slammed into the wall with a dull thud.
Ling Zichen.
She shouted the name from 7 years ago, her voice so loud the entire conference room vibrated. You came back just for this, didn't you? Her voice trembled, her eyes reddening again.
You came back just to get revenge on me on the Song family, didn't you?
Xiao Yichen looked at her and said nothing.
What happened 7 years ago? I can explain.
It's not what you think.
President Song? Xiao Yichen cut her off.
His voice was not loud, but every word hammered onto the table like a nail. I don't want to discuss what happened 7 years ago here. But since you insist on bringing it up, he reached into his file pouch, pulled out a sheet of paper, and slapped it onto the table with a sharp crack. See for yourself. He pushed the paper in front of Song Qingyi. It was a bank transfer record.
The date was 7 years ago.
Sender's account, Song Boyang.
Recipient's account, Zhao Jinyu. Amount, 5 million yuan. The memo field was blank. Song Qingyi stared at the record, and the color drained from her face bit by bit. Your father, Song Boyang, transferred 5 million to Zhao Jinyu 1 month before the trial of the case where I was accused. Xiao Yichen's voice was slow and precise. Nominally, it was for legal fees.
What it actually was, you know in your heart.
You shut up. Song Qingyi slammed her palm on the table, and the tears finally spilled down her cheeks. My father is not that kind of person.
He is not.
Then you tell me.
What kind of person is he?
Song Qingyi opened her mouth, but not a single word came out. The conference room door was suddenly flung open.
Zhao.
Jinyu burst in, his hair a mess, his tie twisted to one side, his eyes bloodshot, as if he had just sprinted here from somewhere. He charged straight for Xiao Yichen, his fists clenched so hard his knuckles were white.
Ling Zichen, you dare set me up.
You're the one who gave those materials to the Economic Crimes Division?
Song Qingyi instinctively stepped in front of Xiao Yichen to shield him, but he stopped her with one hand. He stood up, facing Zhao Jinyu directly. Mr.
Zhao, do you have evidence?
I don't need evidence.
I know it was you.
What exactly do you want? A flicker of madness crossed Zhao Jinyu's eyes, and he suddenly swung a fist straight at Xiao Yichen's face. Xiao Yichen did not dodge. The fist stopped 2 centimeters from the tip of his nose. Not because Zhao Jinyu pulled back. Someone had clamped his wrist tightly from behind. A man over 1.90 meters tall, and weighing more than 110 kilograms, had appeared behind Zhao Jinyu without anyone noticing. His fingers gripped Zhao Jinyu's wrist like iron tongs. Zhao Jinyu's face twisted instantly in pain, all 5 features contorting. Xiao Yichen glanced at the man.
Yang, call the police.
Song Qingyi rushed over and grabbed Zhao Yichen's arm, her nails nearly digging through his sleeve. Don't call the police, please. He just acted on impulse. Xiao Yichen looked down at her hands. 7 years ago, those same hands had pointed at him in court and said, he cheated me out of my money. 7 years ago, those same hands had carried box after box of evidence to the witness stand. 7 years ago, those same hands had never once reached out to pull him up. Now those same hands were clinging to him for dear life. He gently pulled his arm free and looked into her eyes. Song Qingyi, 7 years ago when I knelt in court and begged you, what did you say to me? Song Qingyi's tears streamed down in large drops, her voice shaking beyond recognition. I said, Ling Zichen, go to hell. The conference room was so silent only the low hum of the air conditioning could be heard. Zhao Jinyu was pinned against the wall by a Yang, still cursing. All the Song Group people had risen to their feet, at a complete loss. The Huafeng people remained expressionless. Song Qingyi's legs gave out. She held onto the edge of the table and slowly slid down into a chair, her hands covering her face, her entire body shaking with violent sobs.
I regret it.
Her voice seeped through her fingers, broken, like crushed glass. Zichen, I truly regret it. Xiao Yichen looked at her for a long time. Then he picked up the documents from the table, placed them in his briefcase, and turned toward the door. As he passed Zhao Jinyu, he paused for a step.
Mr. Zhao, the tax problems with your company are only the beginning.
You'd better think hard about how much more I still have that I haven't brought out yet. He walked out of the conference room. The sound of sirens was growing closer from the hallway behind him. A Yong followed and said in a low voice, Mr. Xiao, the economic crimes officers are here. Follow standard procedure. The elevator doors opened, and he stepped inside. The second before the doors slid shut, a heart-rending, desperate scream came from the far end of the hallway.
Ling Zichen?
The elevator doors closed. The floor numbers ticked down from 3 to 1. A soft ding, and the doors opened again. The lobby was bustling with people. No one paid him any attention. He walked out of the hotel entrance, the sun so bright it stung his eyes. A Yong pulled open the car door. Mr.
Xiao, back to the hotel?
Head to the west side of the city.
West side?
A Yong froze for a second.
What's over there?
To see someone. Xiao Yichen got into the car. Someone I should have met 7 years ago.
West side of the city.
Haicheng Old Cemetery.
The car stopped at the cemetery gate. Xiao Yichen told a Yong to wait in the car and walked in alone. The cemetery was not large, built halfway up the hillside, facing the mountain ranges to the west. The afternoon sun shone from behind him, casting his long shadow across row after row of tombstones, like some kind of silent greeting. He walked for about 5 minutes, then stopped in front of a gravestone. The photograph on the stone was of a middle-aged man. Thick eyebrows, large eyes, the corner of his mouth slightly upturned, as if he were smiling. He looked at the camera, and he looked at Xiao Yichen standing here 7 years later.
Ling Zichen.
His father.
The inscription on the stone read, Ling Zichen, born 1963, died 2016. The signature at the bottom was, your unfilial daughter, Song Wan, erected this. Song Wan was Song Qingyi's former name. After she married Zhao Jinyu, she even changed her surname. But on this gravestone she used the name Song Wan, because this gravestone was erected after he was sent to prison. How ironic. The woman who sent him to prison was the same woman who put up a gravestone for his father.
Xiao Yichen crouched down, took out a handkerchief from his pocket, and carefully wiped the dust from the gravestone.
On the stone platform in front of the grave lay a bouquet of flowers, long withered. Judging by how dried out they were, they had been placed there a month or 2 ago. Dad, I'm back. The man on the gravestone remained silent.
These 7 years.
7 years ago, when you had your accident, I was locked up in a detention center. I couldn't even make it to your funeral.
Song Qingyi said you went quickly, without pain.
I don't know if she was telling the truth, but I choose to believe it.
The wind swept over from the other side of the mountain, rustling the pines and cypresses throughout the cemetery. Dad, the company you left me was swallowed up by Song Boyong. The house was repossessed by the bank. Those things are all gone. But there's one thing they couldn't take away. He pulled a small black USB drive from his pocket. A label stuck on it read, in bold letters, evidence. On the morning of your accident, there was a document in your car. Song Qingyi said it was proof of my commercial fraud, a contract I forged, records of me embezzling company funds. But I know that document was not mine. It was yours. It was the evidence you spent 3 years digging up on Song Boyong's money laundering. The man on the gravestone remained silent. That morning, you were supposed to go to the prosecutor's office. You never made it. The car flipped on that road, dead on the spot. Everyone called it an accident. I know it wasn't. 3 days before it happened, Song Boyong called you. He said, Ling Zichen, some things, if you dig too deep, it's bad for everyone. He stood up, gripping the USB drive tightly in his fist.
Dad, the case you spent 3 years investigating but couldn't finish, I will finish it for you.
The people you couldn't send inside, I will send inside for you. The things you couldn't take back, I will take them back for you, one piece at a time. He stood in front of the gravestone for a very long time. The sun slowly shifted from directly overhead to the ridge of the western mountains. The light changed from blinding white to gold, then from gold to tangerine red. His phone rang. It was a Liang.
Mr.
Xiao, Song Qingyi is here.
Xiao Yichen turned and looked toward the cemetery gate.
A black Audi was parked there. The door opened and Song Qingyi stepped out. She had taken off her suit jacket and was only wearing a white blouse, the sleeves rolled up to her elbows. Her hair was down, draped over her shoulders. She spotted his car, then spotted him halfway up the hill, and began walking up the stone path toward him. The click of her high heels on the flagstones was crisp and steady, step by step, like some kind of slow heartbeat. She stopped about 3 meters away from him.
I knew you'd be here.
Her voice was hoarse, as if she had been crying for hours.
How did you find me?
Your car.
Haicheng is only so big.
The name Xiao Yichen might be new, but your car doesn't change.
Xiao Yichen looked her over.
No makeup. Her eyes swollen, her lips chapped, as if she had just bolted from some chaotic situation.
Her blouse was wrinkled, and there was a little dust on her skirt.
Xiao Jinyu,
Released on bail pending trial. Her voice was very soft. His lawyer is handling the paperwork. He can't leave Haicheng. His phone has to be on 24/7. He has to report whenever summoned.
Do you think he can shoulder the falsified invoices charge alone?
Song Qingyi lifted her head and looked him in the eye.
I know he can't.
She paused. But the Song family's legal team will fix everything for him.
Do you think they can fix it?
I don't know.
Her voice trembled.
Zichen. I didn't come here to talk about Xiao Jinyu.
She took a deep breath. I need to ask you one thing.
What is it?
What exactly do you want?
The wind picked up again, blowing strands of her hair across half her face. She did not push them away. She just stared at him through those strands, waiting for his answer. Xiao Yichen looked at her for a long time.
Song Qingyi, do you still remember something you asked me 7 years ago?
You asked me, on the morning of my father's accident, whether I had touched his car.
Song Qingyi's expression changed.
I said no.
You said I was lying.
You said someone saw me in the parking lot? He took a step forward, his voice calm as if stating a simple fact. Now I'm asking you.
Who was that person who said they saw me?
Song Qingyi's lips began to tremble.
It was Xiao Jinyu, wasn't it?
His voice was not heavy, but every word cut like a knife. He told you he saw me get into my father's car with his own eyes. He said I was the one who planted that document. He said, I only married you to swindle your family's money.
Song Qingyi, have you ever stopped to think?
If I really wanted to swindle your family's money, why would I marry you?
Wouldn't it be easier to just partner directly with your father?
If that contract really was forged by me, why would I use my own name?
Wouldn't a random shell company be safer?
If I really embezzled company funds, why, after everything blew up, did I not run, but instead stayed at the office waiting for the economic crimes officers to arrest me?
Those questions, did you ever think about any of them back then?
Song Qingyi's tears streamed down again.
I did.
Her voice was so faint it was almost inaudible. When did you figure it out? 3 months after you went inside. She crouched down in front of Ling Zichen's gravestone, covering her face with both hands. 3 months after you went, I went to visit you in prison. The guards said you refused to see me.
I didn't believe it.
I went every week, and every time they said you wouldn't see me. Later, I finally found out it wasn't that you didn't want to see me.
Someone had pulled strings to block my visits.
I didn't know who. Until half a year later, when I ran into someone outside the prison gate.
Who?
Old Joe.
Your father's former driver.
Xiao Yichen's heart clenched sharply.
What did he say?
Song Qingyi lifted her head, the tear tracks on her face glistening in the sunset. He said that document was prepared by your father himself. He also said your father had been investigating something for 3 whole years before the accident. All the evidence was saved on a USB drive. And that USB drive was with you. She stood up and took a step closer to him. Do you have that USB drive? Xiao Yichen looked at her and said nothing.
Do you have it?
She asked again, louder this time. I do. Then why didn't you hand it over back then? If you had handed over the evidence, you wouldn't have gone to prison.
My father wouldn't have.
We wouldn't have.
We wouldn't have divorced.
I wouldn't have married Xiao Jinyu. I wouldn't have become who I am today. Xiao Yichen finished the sentence for her. She fell silent. Do you think I never thought about handing it over? He said. The very first day I was locked up. I wanted to, but my lawyer told me the files on the USB drive had already been tampered with before I went in. All the key evidence had been wiped. What was left was completely useless. Who did it?
Take a guess.
Song Qingyi's hand began to shake.
Xiao Jinyu.
Xiao Jinyu. Xiao Yichen repeated the name. But how did he get his hands on it? The USB drive was with you the whole time. It was with you. Xiao Yichen cut her off.
Song Qingyi, you handed that USB drive to Xiao Jinyu with your own hands.
Every last trace of color drained from Song Qingyi's face in an instant. Do you still remember? The night before my father's accident, you came to my place looking for me. You said you wanted to look through my father's things, to keep one item as a memento.
I gave you that USB drive.
I told you it had some of my father's work files on it, and asked you to see if there was anything you wanted to keep.
The next day the USB drive was gone. You said you had accidentally lost it.
Song Qingyi's legs buckled.
She reached out and braced herself against Ling Zichen's gravestone to keep from collapsing.
I didn't know.
Her voice sounded like it had been pulled out of water. I didn't know he would delete everything on it. He said he just wanted to take a look and would give it right back after.
And you believed him?
Xiao Yichen looked at her. Song Qingyi, before my father had his accident. He said one thing to me. He said, "That girl is even more frightening than her father."
Song Qingyi's entire body jolted violently.
He saw right through you a long time ago.
Xiao Yichen's voice held no hatred, no resentment, only a clarity that had pierced through the years. You are not evil. You are foolish, and foolishness harms people more than evil ever does. The sun sank beneath the mountain ridge. The light in the cemetery dimmed rapidly. A yong honked the horn in the distance, a reminder that it was time to go.
Xiao Yichen turned and walked toward the cemetery gate.
He had not taken more than a few steps when Song Qingyi's voice drifted from behind him. Very soft, very light, like a falling leaf landing on a flagstone.
Zichen, if I said the biggest regret of my life was coming to you that night to take that USB drive.
Would you believe me? He did not turn around.
I believe you.
But you don't regret taking the USB drive?
You regret that your life didn't get better after you took it?
If Zhao Jinyu had treated you well, if Song Group had been thriving, would you still regret it?
No, you wouldn't.
You don't regret doing the wrong thing.
You regret that the wrong thing didn't get you the result you wanted?
That's not repentance.
That's bitterness.
The moment he stepped out of the cemetery gate, the sound of Song Qingyi's crying erupted behind him. Not quiet sobbing, but a raw, heart-wrenching wail, like a child who had lost everything. The last rays of the western sun stretched her shadow long across Ling Huaishan's gravestone.
Xiao Yichen did not look back.
Some wrongs can be righted, and some people are not worth waiting for.
He pulled open the car door and got in. 3 days later, halfway up Phoenix Mountain, Song Boyong's private club. This club covered 5 acres and was built in the style of a traditional Chinese garden. 200-year-old ginkgo trees at the entrance blocked out the sky. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary private residence. Only once you stepped inside did you understand the meaning of hidden luxury. A full set of mahogany furniture, gold-threaded Nanmu wood relief carvings inlaid into the walls, and floors paved with whole slabs of imported marble, every piece hand-selected for its veining. The club was not open to the public. It was reserved exclusively for Song Boyong's private guests. Today, Xiao Yichen was here, but not as a guest. A yong pulled the car up to the club entrance. Xiao Yichen got out and adjusted his suit jacket. A middle-aged man in a black Chinese tunic suit stood by the door, his face expressionless, his eyes sharp. Clearly a professional bodyguard. "Mr. Xiao, Chairman Song is waiting for you inside. Please follow me." They passed through a moon gate, followed a cobblestone path, skirted a rockery and a man-made lake, and finally stopped in front of a tea room surrounded on all sides by floor-to-ceiling glass windows. The bodyguard pushed open the door and stepped aside, gesturing for him to enter. "Chairman Song, Mr.
Xiao is here."
Sitting inside the tea room was Song Boyong, 67 years old, founder and chairman of Song Group. He wore a dark blue Tang-style suit, his graying hair combed impeccably into place. The wrinkles on his face looked as if they had been carved by a knife, but his eyes were still sharp, the kind of sharpness honed over decades of brutal combat in the business world.
Murky yet shrewd.
Shrewd and cold. On the coffee table in front of him was a set of purple clay teaware, the aroma of tea curling upward through the air. He lifted his head to look at Xiao Yichen, and a faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Lukewarm and perfectly measured, like a seasoned hunter sizing up prey that had walked right into his trap. "Sit." Xiao Yichen sat down across from him. The bodyguard withdrew and closed the door. The two of them were the only ones left in the tea room. It was so quiet you could hear the water bubbling in the kettle. Song Boyong poured 2 cups of tea, slid one across the table to Xiao Yichen, and picked up the other himself. He blew on it gently and took a small sip. "Xiao Yichen." He pronounced the name very slowly, as if savoring the taste of each word. "Vice President of the Southeast Asian Chinese Chamber of Commerce.
The de facto controller of Huafeng Group.
You also own 7 other companies spread across Thailand, Vietnam, and Singapore. Total assets roughly 20 billion. He set down his teacup and looked at Xiao Yichen. "In 6 years, from 0 to 20 billion.
Ling Zichen, you've got more skill than your father ever did."
"My father's skill wasn't in swallowing other people's companies," Xiao Yichen said. Song Boyong's smile did not falter, but his finger tapped once lightly against the edge of his teacup.
"You came all this way just to say that?"
"No," Xiao Yichen said. "You invited me here."
"Indeed. I invited you here.
Song Boyong leaned back in his chair, fingers interlaced over his stomach, the picture of relaxation, as if chatting with an old friend. Ling Zichen, I don't like beating around the bush. I asked you here today to discuss a deal.
What kind of deal? Back off.
Stop going after Song Group. Stop going after Xiao Jinyu. Stop going after Song Qingyi. He paused. I will give you 1 billion.
1 billion.
The number rolled off Song Boyong's tongue with such ease, as if he were talking about $10.
1 billion, Xiao Yichen repeated.
Chairman Song thinks I came back for money?
Song Boyong's eyes narrowed slightly.
Then what did you come back for?
Xiao Yichen did not answer. He pulled a document pouch from his briefcase, placed it on the coffee table, and slid it across to Song Boyong. Take a look at this first. Song Boyong glanced at the pouch but did not reach for it.
What is it?
A recording. From 7 years ago. Song Boyong's fingers froze for half a second.
What recording?
Guess.
Silence hung in the tea room for a few seconds. Song Boyong reached out, picked up the pouch and opened it. Inside was a USB drive and several printed documents. He looked at the documents first. The first page was a call log, a phone conversation between Song Boyong and Xiao Jinyu 7 years ago, duration 47 minutes. The second page was a bank transfer record. 7 years ago, a sum of money transferred from Song Boyong's personal account, amount 5 million, no memo. The third page was a scanned contract. Party A was Song Group. Party B was a shell company. The contract value was 20 million. The service described as consulting fees. The legal representative of that shell company was Song Boyong's private driver. Song Boyong's expression did not flicker in the slightest. He set down the documents, picked up the USB drive, examined it for a moment, then placed it back on the table.
What is this?
The answer to the question you just asked me is in here. Song Boyong was silent for a few seconds, then picked up the USB drive and plugged it into the audio system next to the coffee table. The recording began to play. First came a few seconds of crackling static, then the conversation between two men.
One was Song Boyong.
The other was Xiao Jinyu. The recording was crystal clear. Every word cut through 7 years of time like a blade. Song Boyong's voice. Are you absolutely sure you put that document in Ling Huaishan's car?
Xiao Jinyu's voice. Absolutely sure.
I placed it with my own hands. That idiot Ling Zichen still has no clue what's going on. Song Boyong's voice. And what about Qingyi?
Xiao Jinyu's voice. She bought it completely.
I told her Ling Zichen forged contracts to embezzle company funds, and that all the proof is in that document. She said she's willing to testify in court. Song Boyong's voice. Good. Once Ling Zichen is dead and Ling Zichen is locked up, the Ling family's company will be ours. Once this is done, I won't treat you poorly.
Xiao Jinyu's voice. Thank you, Chairman Song.
And Qingyi. Song Boyong's voice. Qingyi will marry you. That was already agreed. The recording paused for a beat, and then Song Boyong's voice came through one last time.
Ling Huaishan investigated me for 3 years.
He never would have guessed, even in death, that the one to carry the blame for me would be his own son.
The recording ended.
The tea room was as silent as a tomb. Song Boyong sat motionless in his chair, his hands still resting on the coffee table, but his fingers no longer tapped the rim of his cup. His face showed no expression whatsoever, but one tiny detail betrayed him. While the recording played, his pupils did not dilate, they contracted.
That was not fear.
That was unbridled rage. Where did you get this?
His voice was so low it sounded like it was being ground out from the depths of his throat.
From Xiao Jinyu's phone,
Xiao Yichen said, "You know, he has a habit. He records every important phone call, says it's for self-preservation. He never imagined these recordings would end up becoming the evidence of his crimes. Over 3,000 recordings were stored on it. I listened to every single one." Song Boyong shot to his feet so fast it was hard to believe he was a 67-year-old man. He planted one hand on the coffee table, leaned forward, and stared at Xiao Yichen. The shrewdness and calm in those eyes were completely gone, replaced by only one thing, murderous intent.
Ling Zichen, you think you can threaten me with this?
I am not threatening you.
Xiao Yichen also stood up, meeting his gaze eye to eye.
I am simply letting you know what I have in my hands. Now I'm giving you two choices. Option 1, you turn yourself in, confess every single thing you have done, pay back what you owe, admit to all the charges, spend a few years inside, and you can still live out your remaining years in peace when you get out. Option 2, I hand all of this over, not to the Haicheng prosecutor's office, but to the provincial authorities, to the Supreme People's Procuratorate, to everyone who has the power to put you away. At that point, It won't be a matter of a few years inside.
It'll be a matter of whether you ever come out alive.
Song Boyong stared at him for a long time, then suddenly burst out laughing. He laughed loudly, exaggeratedly, doubling over as if he might cry. But there was not a single trace of amusement in his eyes. They were as cold as a frozen lake in winter, calm on the surface. But beneath that surface was nothing but ice. Ling Zichen, he stopped laughing and straightened up, wiping the corner of his eye with a finger. You are more capable than your father. He investigated me for 3 years and found nothing.
You spent 7 years and managed to gather the proof.
But you still forgot one thing.
What thing? How did your father die?
Xiao Yichen's heart skipped a beat.
Car accident.
Car accident, Song Boyong repeated, a bone-chilling smile hooking the corner of his mouth.
Right.
A car accident. But do you know who arranged that accident?
Xiao Yichen looked at him and said nothing.
You spent 7 years digging.
You found the recordings, the transfer records, the contracts.
But did you ever find out who tampered with your father's brake line on the morning of his accident?
Xiao Yichen's hands began to turn cold. You didn't find him. Song Boyong sat back down in his chair, picked up his teacup and took a sip.
And you'll never find him.
He died 6 years ago.
Terminal cancer. Before he died, he came to see me.
Said he was sorry for what he did to your father.
Said he had nightmares every single night. Song Boyong set down his cup and looked at Xiao Yichen. Ling Zichen, you think what you've dug up is the truth?
The truth is far darker than you can imagine.
What you hold in your hands is just the tip of the iceberg. You have no idea what's hiding beneath the surface.
I didn't ask you here today to negotiate terms.
I asked you here to warn you. Some things, if you dig too deep, it ends badly for everyone. The exact same line his father had heard back then. It ends badly for everyone. Xiao Yichen pulled a second document from his briefcase and placed it on the table.
Chairman Song, look at this first.
Song Boyong glanced down, and the smile finally vanished from his face. It was Ling Huishen's autopsy report, not the one released by the police, but a re-examination result from an independent forensic agency. The report stated, the deceased, Ling Huishen, died from craniocerebral trauma caused by the collision after his vehicle went out of control. However, technical examination of the braking system found evidence of deliberate damage to the right front wheel brake line. The cut is clean and consistent with intentional severing by a sharp instrument. Conclusion: homicide, not an accident.
You think I didn't know that?
Xiao Yichen's voice was very calm. I've had this autopsy report for 7 years. I just couldn't get my hands on it back then because I was locked up in a detention center. After I got out, I fled to Southeast Asia, but I never stopped investigating.
7 years.
You hid the perpetrator for 7 years.
I searched for 7 years, and I found him. Your driver is dead, but before he died, he wrote a handwritten confession.
I brought the confession too.
He pulled a third document from the pouch and placed it on the table. A handwritten confession, with a signature and fingerprint on the last page. The signatory, Zheng Aju, Song Boyong's private driver. The confession stated clearly, I, Zheng Aju, under the orders of Song Boyong, sabotaged the braking system of Ling Huishen's vehicle on a certain date in 2016, causing brake failure while he was driving and leading to the fatal car crash. Song Boyong's hands began to shake violently, completely out of control. His teacup tipped over, and tea spilled across the table, dripping down the edge onto the marble floor with a soft pattering sound.
Xiao Yichen said, this confession has already been submitted to the provincial prosecutor's office.
I did not come here today to negotiate terms. I came to deliver a formal notification.
Song Boyong's face turned the color of a blank sheet of paper.
He opened his mouth as if to say something, but all that came out was a dry, broken rasp. Chairman Song Xiao Yichen put all the documents back into his briefcase and stood up. My father waited 7 years. You owe him a life. I have also waited 7 years. And you owe me far more than just one life. He turned and walked toward the door. Behind him came Song Boyong's old, trembling voice, shaking like a rain-soaked dead branch in the wind. You can't do this to me.
Qingyi, she was pregnant with your child.
Xiao Yichen's footsteps froze on the spot. He turned around.
What did you say?
Song Boyong braced himself against the table and stood up. Qingyi was pregnant with your child back then, 7 years ago. Before you went to prison, she was already pregnant. She aborted it. Zhao Jinyu told her you would never get out in this lifetime, that the child would be born without a father. Xiao Yichen stood rooted to the ground, not moving an inch. She regretted it.
Song Boyong's voice was very soft.
She didn't regret aborting the child.
She regretted believing Zhao Jinyu.
She said if she could do it all over again, she would wait for you. No matter how long, she would wait. Xiao Yichen turned to face Song Boyong. You're telling me all this now because you want me to let you go? I'm telling you so you know. I'm not the only one you have a grudge against. Xiao Yichen stared at him for a very long moment, then pulled the door open and walked out without looking back. The hallway was long, the lights dim. His footsteps were steady, his breathing even. Only he himself knew his hands were shaking.
That child.
His and Song Qingyi's child, aborted 7 years ago. All because Zhao Jinyu said he would never make it out alive in this lifetime. He walked out the main entrance of the club. The sunlight was blinding, and he squinted. A Yang pulled open the car door, and he got in.
Mr. Xiao, back to the hotel?
To the hospital. Hospital? A Yang froze for a second. Are you feeling unwell?
No.
Xiao Yichen's voice betrayed no emotion whatsoever. To see someone.
Who?
Song Qingyi. A Yang glanced at him through the rearview mirror, asked no further questions, and started the engine. The car descended from Phoenix Mountain and merged into the traffic on the main road. Outside the window, everything rushed backward at high speed. Xiao Yichen leaned back against the seat and closed his eyes. The image that surfaced in his mind was not Song Boyong, not Zhao Jinyu, not even Song Qingyi. It was a blurry, tiny shadow, a person he had never met. If that child were still alive, they would be starting elementary school this year. Haicheng no.
One People's Hospital, the obstetrics and gynecology hallway.
Xiao Yichen did not enter the ward. He simply stood by the window at the end of the hallway, looking down at the cars coming and going in the parking lot below. A Liang stood 3 steps behind him, holding a newly retrieved file pouch, hesitating over whether to hand it over. Give it to me. A Liang handed over the pouch. Inside was a surgical record from 7 years ago. Patient name, Song Wan. Procedure, induced abortion. Preoperative diagnosis, early pregnancy, approximately 9 weeks.
9 weeks?
Over 2 months. That child had been alive in his ex-wife's belly for over 2 months, and he had been completely unaware. By the time he finally found out, the child was already gone. He closed the file and handed it back to a Liang.
Which ward is she in?
6th floor of the inpatient building, room 603.
Acute gastroenteritis. Admitted yesterday afternoon, requires 48 hours of observation.
Zhao Jinyu came once, stayed less than 20 minutes before leaving.
They had a fight.
Zhao Jinyu slammed the door on his way out.
Xiao Yichen said nothing and turned toward the inpatient building. The elevator ticked upward floor by floor, the numbers jumping from 1 to 6. The doors opened, and the smell of disinfectant hit him. The hallway was white, the walls were white, the lights were white, the bedsheets were white.
So white it hurt the eyes.
The door to room 603 was closed. He stood outside and glanced inside through the glass pane on the door. Song Qingyi was lying on the hospital bed, wearing a blue and white striped patient gown, her hair spread across the pillow. Her face was as pale as paper, her lips completely colorless. Her eyes were closed. He could not tell if she was asleep or awake. On the bedside table was a bouquet of flowers, already wilted, the edges of the petals yellowed and curling, as if they had been sitting there for days with no one to tend to them. He pushed the door open and walked in. His footsteps sounded exceptionally loud in the quiet ward. Song Qingyi's eyelids fluttered, then slowly opened. The instant she saw him, a dozen emotions flashed through her eyes. Shock, disbelief, and something unnameable, half hope, half despair. You. Her voice was hoarse, as if it had been scraped raw by sandpaper. Xiao Yichen sat down in the chair beside the bed and looked at her. How did you know I was here?
She struggled to sit up.
He reached out and pressed her shoulder down. Stay lying down. She lay back against the pillow, her gaze not leaving his face for a single second, as if terrified he might disappear the next moment.
Song Qingyi, Xiao Yichen said, I have a few questions for you.
She nodded.
First question.
7 years ago, you were pregnant.
Why didn't you tell me?
Song Qingyi's body went rigid all at once.
Her eyes flew wide open. Her pupils contracted to pinpricks, and her lips began to tremble. She clutched the bedsheet, her knuckles turning white, as if she were about to tear the fabric apart.
You.
How did you find out? Answer the question.
She closed her eyes.
Tears spilled from the corners, trailing down her cheeks and into her ears. Because Zhao Jinyu said. Her voice shook. You had been locked up, a minimum of 3 years.
When you got out, you'd have nothing.
How could you raise a child? He said if the child was born, people would call him the son of a criminal. And you believed him. She opened her eyes and looked at him, her sclera webbed with red veins. Back then, I didn't know who to believe. Everyone was saying you were a fraud, that you forged the contract, that you embezzled the money. My father said it. Zhao Jinyu said it. The company lawyers said it too. I was alone. Who was I supposed to believe? You could have believed me, Xiao Yichen said. Whatever I didn't do, I didn't do. She cried even harder. Second question, he said. Was aborting the child your own decision? Or did Zhao Jinyu make you do it? Song Qingyi's lips moved, but no sound came out.
Song Qingyi, I want the truth.
Her voice was so faint, it was almost inaudible. He took me to the hospital. He said it was already arranged.
The doctor said the surgery would be quick, painless.
He said once it was done, everything would be behind us, and we could start over.
He took you there.
When you signed the surgical consent form, did you ever stop to think, even for a moment, that this child was also mine? She did not answer.
She just cried.
Xiao Yichen watched her cry for a very long time. Third question. His voice was utterly calm. If I told you now that your father has personally admitted it, that 7 years ago, he found evidence my father was investigating him for money laundering, and so he had someone tamper with my father's car.
Would you believe me?
Song Qingyi's sobs cut off abruptly.
She stared at him wide-eyed, her expression shifting from grief to terror, and then from terror to utter breakdown. You! What did you say? Your father's driver, Zheng Ajiu, wrote a handwritten confession before he died, admitting that your father ordered him to sever the brake line on my father's car. My father did not die in a car accident.
He was murdered.
Impossible.
Song Qingyi shot upright.
The IV line jerked taut, and the needle slipped out of the back of her hand. Beads of blood oozed out, dotting the white bedsheet like tiny red blossoms. She seemed to feel no pain at all, and fixed her gaze on him, her eyes even redder than before. My father would never do something like that. He would never kill anyone. You're lying to me. You're lying to me.
I am not lying.
Xiao Yichen took his phone out of his pocket, opened a scanned document, and handed it to her.
This is Zheng Ajia's handwritten confession.
See for yourself. She took the phone and stared at the screen, her fingers trembling. Her eyes scanned the lines of text one by one, and the color drained from her face line by line. By the time she read the last line, her face was as white as the bedsheet.
No.
This is impossible. Her voice sounded like it had been fished out of water. My father wouldn't. He wouldn't.
He would, Xiao Yichen said.
He was capable of anything to swallow up my family's company, including murder. Song Qingyi threw the phone onto the bed as if it had burned her. She hugged her shoulders and shrank against the headboard, curled into a ball, trembling all over like a cornered animal. You're telling me all this. What do you want me to do? Her voice was so soft, it was almost a mumble to herself. I don't want you to do anything. Xiao Yichen stood up. I'm simply telling you the truth. The truth is, your father is a murderer.
Your husband is an accomplice.
You sent me to prison with your own hands, and you aborted my child. The ward fell silent. Outside the window came the chirping of birds, the rustle of wind through leaves, the distant rumble of construction machinery. But all those sounds seemed separated from the ward by a thick pane of glass. Song Qingyi hung her head, her shoulders shaking, but she made no sound. She had no tears left to cry. Xiao Yichen turned and headed for the door.
Zichen.
The voice that came from behind him was very soft, eerily calm. Too calm for someone who had just learned her father was a murderer. He stopped walking but did not look back. If I said I'm willing to testify in court, to send my father and Zhao Jinyu to prison, would you believe me?
The ward was silent for a few seconds.
No, he said.
Why?
Because 7 years ago, you also said you would believe me.
And you didn't.
Xiao Yichen pulled the door open and walked out. In the hallway, a Liang stood by the door, holding another envelope.
Mr.
Xiao, this just arrived. An invitation from the board of directors of Song Group, requesting your attendance at an extraordinary board meeting in 3 days.
What is the agenda?
Song Boyong has been suspended from all duties by the board. Zhao Jinyu's vice president position has also been suspended. The board will be electing a new chairman.
Who issued the invitation?
A Liang glanced at the envelope. Song Qingyi. Xiao Yichen looked at the envelope. The words to Mr.
Xiao Yichen in person were written on it in elegant penmanship.
Unmistakably Song Qingyi's handwriting. "Ill go," Xiao Yichen said.
Mr.
Xiao, this is an internal board meeting for Song Group.
You are an outsider. In 3 days, he cut a Liang off. I won't be. He stepped into the elevator. A Liang froze for a second, then caught on. The elevator doors closed. Through the gap, he glimpsed the ward at the end of the hallway. Its door was open, and the white light from inside spilled out onto the corridor floor, like a river. 3 days later, Haicheng International Convention Center, the extraordinary board meeting of Song Group. This building was one of Haicheng's landmarks, an all-glass facade, 46 stories high, standing directly across the street from Song Group's headquarters. The meeting was held here instead of at the Song Group offices, reportedly because Song Qingyi's people still controlled the headquarters building, and the board did not want to hold the meeting on Song Boyong's turf.
Xiao Yichen sat in the car for 5 minutes without any intention of getting out.
Liang turned around from the front passenger seat. Mr. Xiao, the meeting starts at 9. We still have 20 minutes.
Has Song Qingyi arrived?
Yes, she went in 10 minutes ago.
And Zhao Jinyu?
His bail conditions are still in effect, so he is technically eligible to attend the board meeting. But he won't show today.
Why not?
He was taken in for questioning again by the Economic Crimes Investigation Unit early this morning. New evidence has surfaced, linking him to that contract forgery case from 7 years ago.
Liang paused.
That would be the batch of materials I submitted last night on your orders. Xiao Yichen nodded, then pushed the car door open and stepped out. Security at the convention center was tight today. 4 guards were stationed at the entrance, along with 2 Song Group staff in suits checking the guest list. Xiao Yichen handed his invitation to one of them. The man glanced at it, then looked back at him, his expression somewhat odd.
Mr. Xiao Yichen, this way, please.
3rd floor, conference room. As the elevator ascended, Xiao Yichen looked at his reflection in the polished stainless steel wall panel.
No tie today.
The top button of his shirt was left open. The suit was deep navy, the cufflinks silver. Understated, but anyone with a discerning eye would recognize the value instantly. The doors to the 3rd floor conference room were 2 heavy mahogany panels, with a staff member posted on each side. The doors were pushed open, and the buzz of voices inside surged out like a tide. The room was vast, capable of seating 50 people. About 30 had shown up today. The long conference table was covered in dark green felt, a name card and file folder set out in front of every seat. The board members, key shareholders, and senior executives of Song Group were essentially all present. The moment Xiao Yichen stepped into the room, every gaze locked onto him. Murmuring broke out everywhere.
Who's that?
Xiao Yichen, the head of Huafeng Group.
What's he doing here?
This is an internal board meeting of the Song family. I heard Song Qingyi invited him. Xiao Yichen spotted his name card halfway down the table. Xiao Yichen, Huafeng Group. The seat was neither at the head nor at the far end, but right in the middle, like the pivot point of a scale, leaning toward neither side. He sat down, set his briefcase on the table, opened it, took out a tablet, and placed it in front of him. Then he lifted his head and looked directly toward the head of the table. Song Qingyi was sitting there. Today she wore a black pantsuit, her hair pinned up, with light makeup. She looked much better than she had 3 days ago in the hospital, but if you looked closely, you could still see the signs. The dark circles under her eyes could not be concealed. Her eye rims were slightly red, as if she had been crying. She was gripping a pen so hard her knuckles were white, her entire body strung as taut as a fully drawn bow. The seat next to her was empty. That was Song Boyong's seat. The name card was still there, but the man was not.
Fellow directors.
A middle-aged man sitting to Song Qingyi's left stood up. It was Li Guoliang, a veteran board member from the Song faction. We have convened this extraordinary board meeting today for one single agenda item, the election of a new chairman. The room went dead silent instantly.
As Mr.
Song Boyong is temporarily unable to fulfill his duties as chairman, due to personal reasons. According to the company's articles of association, we must elect a new chairman today to oversee daily operations. Just as Li Guoliang finished speaking, a portly man at the far end of the table stood up.
I nominate Ms.
Song Qingyi for the position of new chairman.
Ms.
Song is the daughter of Mr.
Song Boyong has been managing Song family operations for years, knows the business inside and out, and represents a major shareholder.
She is the most suitable candidate. Voices immediately chimed in agreement. Others remained silent, and a few whispered among themselves. I object. An aged but powerful voice rang out from a corner.
Every head turned.
The speaker was an old man with graying hair, wearing gold-rimmed glasses and a gray Zongshan suit, his expression stern.
Song Weiyong.
Another founding elder of Song Group, and the largest individual shareholder outside the Song family. He had built the company from the ground up alongside Song Boyong for 30 years, only to be pushed out of the core circle by Song Boyong 3 years ago over conflicting business philosophies. I do not deny Ms. Song Qingyi's capabilities. Song Weiyong stood up, his voice not loud but every word crisp and clear. But the problem Song Group is facing right now cannot be solved by capability alone.
Tax investigations, commercial fraud investigations,
falsified invoice investigations.
These matters have dragged Song Group's reputation to rock bottom. We need a brand new image, a new direction to rebuild market confidence. Ms. Song Qingyi, as the daughter of Mr. Song Boyong, will never be able to shake off that association no matter what.
Then who do you think is the right candidate?
Someone asked. Song Weiyong turned and looked at Xiao Yichen. I nominate Mr. Xiao Yichen. The conference room exploded. People slammed the table, jumped to their feet, shouted, "No way," and loudly demanded, "On what grounds?"
Song Qingyi sat in the head seat without moving a muscle, her expression betraying not a single ripple.
Li Guoliang banged the table several times.
Order.
Order.
Once the noise subsided somewhat, Li Guoliang looked at Song Weiyong. Elder Song, Mr. Xiao Yichen is neither a shareholder nor an employee of Song Group. According to our company's articles of association, he is not eligible to run for chairman. He will be very soon. Song Weiyong pulled a document from his folder and held it up. This is the transfer agreement for all of my Song Group shares under my name. Effective today, my entire 12% stake is transferred to Mr. Xiao Yichen. The conference room fell silent for a beat, then erupted again. 12% of the shares, plus the 9% Xiao Yichen had already quietly acquired through various channels, gave him 21% of Song Group's shares, second only to Song Boyong's 28%.
Song Qingyi shot to her feet.
Her chair slid backward and slammed into the wall with a harsh screech. Her face was white as a sheet, and she stared daggers at Song Weiyong, her lips trembling. Uncle Song.
How could you?
Song Weiyong looked at her, his voice laden with a complex emotion that had been suppressed for too long. Qingyi, I worked alongside your father for 30 years. I wasn't unaware of the things he did. I simply chose to turn a blind eye. Now, I no longer wish to pretend I can't see. Song Qingyi braced herself against the table, all the strength seeming to have drained from her body. Li Guoliang looked at Xiao Yichen, his expression grim.
Mr.
Xiao Yichen, you are now a significant shareholder of Song Group and are eligible to participate in the election for chairman. However, according to our articles of association, the chairman requires the support of over 50% of the shares.
Are you certain you can achieve that number?
Xiao Yichen stood up.
Every gaze in the room converged on him. President Li, before we vote, I have one matter to present to everyone. He pulled a USB drive from his briefcase and handed it to Li Guoliang.
What is this?
A recording, a phone conversation between Song Boyong and Zhao Jinyu from 7 years ago. The content involves commercial fraud, evidence fabrication, and murder.
The word murder detonated in the conference room like a bomb.
Everyone began shouting over each other, some jumping to their feet and leaning in Xiao Yichen's direction, some pulling out their phones and making calls, some sitting frozen in their chairs, faces ashen. Song Qingyi stood beside the head seat, both hands braced on the tabletop, her head bowed, her shoulders trembling slightly. She looked at no one and said nothing. Li Guoliang shouted over the noise, banging the table over a dozen times before barely managing to bring the room under control. He looked at Xiao Yichen, his face ghastly. Mr. Xiao, what do you mean by murder? 7 years ago, my father, Ling Zichen, died in a car crash. It was not an accident. It was homicide.
Someone tampered with his vehicle, severing his brake line.
The person behind it all was Song Boyong. A collective gasp swept through the room. Where is the evidence? The evidence is all on this USB drive, Xiao Yichen said. The same materials have already been submitted to the provincial prosecutor's office and the Haicheng Municipal Public Security Bureau.
Song Boyong was taken into custody this morning.
The conference room erupted once more. Song Qingyi lifted her head and looked at him. There was no anger in her eyes, no hatred, not even sorrow. There was only something he had never seen before, total, unreserved despair. He had just snapped the last lifeline she had. Xiao Yichen scanned the room.
Shall we begin the vote now?
The conference room fell quiet for a few seconds. Song Weiyong was the first to raise his hand. I support Mr.
Xiao Yichen.
Behind him, his proxies, lawyers, and financial advisors all raised their hands simultaneously, accounting for the full 12% stake. Then, at the far end of the conference table, a middle-aged woman who had not uttered a single word the entire meeting raised her hand. She was the representative of an investment firm in Haicheng that held 5% of Song Group's shares.
We support Mr.
Xiao Yichen.
17%.
Then a second hand went up, a third, a fourth.
19%.
21%.
25%.
Song Qingyi stood there watching it all, as if observing a play that had nothing to do with her. Her hands still rested on the table, but they were no longer trembling. Her expression had gone completely blank, like a sheet of paper that had been wiped clean. Li Guoliang looked at her. President Song, you hold 15% of the shares.
What is your position?
All eyes turned to Song Qingyi. She was silent for so long that the very air in the conference room seemed to solidify. Then slowly she lifted her head and looked at Xiao Yichen. I support Mr. Xiao Yichen. Another stir rippled through the room. Song Qingyi's 15%, added to the percentages Xiao Yichen had already secured, surpassed 50%.
Thank you, everyone. Xiao Yichen's voice was not loud, but every word landed clearly in the ears of every person present.
However, I did not come here today to become the chairman of Song Group. The room fell instantly silent. I came to make one announcement.
Huafeng Group is formally initiating a tender offer to acquire Song Group.
The acquisition proposal has already been submitted to the Securities Regulatory Commission and the Ministry of Commerce. If all goes smoothly in 3 months, Song Group will no longer be called Song Group. It will become a wholly owned subsidiary of Huafeng.
Some people shot to their feet and slammed the table.
Someone shouted loudly, "This is a hostile takeover."
It is not hostile. Xiao Yichen's tone was very calm.
This is a legal, open, and completely transparent business transaction.
Song Group's stock price has fallen 40% in the past 3 months.
Shareholders have suffered massive losses. Huafeng's acquisition offer comes with a 30% premium over the market price. Every shareholder can make their own choice. Those who wish to stay are welcome. Those who wish to leave can take the cash and go. This is what Song Boyong owed my father, and it is what Song Group owes this city. The conference room was silent for a very long time. No one spoke. Li Guoliang was the first to stand and extend his hand toward Xiao Yichen. Mr.
Xiao, welcome.
Xiao Yichen shook his hand.
Then Song Weiyong.
Then the woman from the investment firm. Then one hand after another, Song Qingyi remained standing where she was, not moving from her spot beside the head of the table. After everyone else had finished shaking hands, Xiao Yichen walked over to her. She lifted her head to look at him. Her eyes were red, but there were no tears. Her voice was so soft only he could hear. You won? This is not a win, Xiao Yichen shook his head. It's an ending.
What ending?
The sins your father created.
They end today. She lowered her gaze to the tabletop and was silent for a long time. I don't know how many years my father will get, but it'll be at least a 10-year sentence. She paused again.
Zichen, will you go see him?
No.
Why not? Because he killed my father. Song Qingyi closed her eyes.
I understand.
Xiao Yichen turned and headed for the door. Her voice drifted after him, very soft, very light, like a falling leaf. Zichen, if you had told me all of this sooner, I would have believed you. Xiao Yichen's steps paused for a beat. Would you? 7 years ago, you said the exact same thing. He did not look back and pushed the door open to walk out. In the hallway, a Liang was already waiting, phone in hand. Mr. Xiao, your grandmother is awake. Xiao Yichen's heart jolted sharply.
What did she say?
She said she wants to see you. Xiao Yichen's grandmother was the only blood relative he had left in this world. 7 years ago, after he was sent to prison, his grandmother suffered a sudden cerebral hemorrhage. Song Qingyi told him she had placed his grandmother in a nursing home, but he later discovered that Song Qingyi had stashed the old woman in a remote care facility on the outskirts of the city and told no one the address. Throughout his 6 years in Southeast Asia, he sent money to that facility every single month, but he never once went to visit. He was afraid that going there would drag his grandmother into his affairs. The car had not even fully stopped outside the gate of the West City Rehabilitation Hospital before Xiao Yichen threw the door open and sprinted inside. The elevator was too slow, so he took the stairs. 3rd floor, room 305. The door was open. His grandmother was propped up in bed, a thin white quilt covering her. The wrinkles on her face were deep, her hair completely white, but her eyes were bright. She looked at him standing in the doorway, and the corner of her mouth slowly curved upward, revealing a smile he had not seen in 6 years.
Zichen, you've gotten thin.
Her voice was hoarse but crystal clear. Xiao Yichen knelt beside the bed and took her hand. His grandmother's hand was icy cold, so gaunt that it was just a layer of skin over bone, the knuckles like dry winter twigs. But she gripped his hand very tightly, so tightly it seemed she would never let go again.
Grandma, his voice caught. I'm home.
Home is good, his grandmother said.
Home is good.
Outside the window, the sunlight was just right, spilling onto the white walls of the hospital room, onto his grandmother's white hair, and onto their clasped hands. 3 months later, the Haicheng Intermediate People's Court held the trial for the Song Boyong case. It was raining that day, not a torrential downpour, but a fine, endless drizzle, like unbroken threads of silk. The raindrops struck the stone steps outside the courthouse, darkening the gray stone to a deep black, wet enough to reflect the figures of people. Xiao Yichen did not go inside. He sat in his car, parked on the street opposite the courthouse, looking at that gray-white building through the car window. Liang sat in the front passenger seat, relaying the trial's progress in real time via a tablet. Song Boyong pled guilty in court. His voice was very calm.
Money laundering, commercial fraud, bribery, directing others to fabricate evidence.
He admitted to all 7 charges. Only the intentional homicide charge he refuses to admit to. He says Zhang Aju cut the brake line on his own.
But Zhang Aju is already dead.
There is no one alive to contradict him.
Mr. Xiao, the prosecution says the chain of evidence is solid.
Even if the intentional homicide charge doesn't stick, the other charges combined are enough for at least 15 years. Xiao Jinya's trial is next week. Issuing falsified invoices, commercial fraud, fabricating evidence, obstruction of testimony. He has admitted to all 6 charges and signed a plea agreement last month. The prosecution is recommending an 8-year sentence. Liang paused.
Song Qingyi testified in court today.
She identified in court that Song Boyong directed her to destroy evidence 7 years ago.
Xiao Yichen looked toward the courthouse entrance.
Reporters had the main entrance steps completely surrounded. Cameras and microphones were thrust forward, flashes popping nonstop. Some were interviewing lawyers who had just walked out. Some were doing live broadcasts into their cameras. Some were holding umbrellas, waiting for the next person to emerge.
She has come out, Liang said.
The courthouse entrance. Song Qingyi walked out of the courthouse doors, a female lawyer following behind her holding an umbrella over her head. She wore a dark gray trench coat, her hair loose, no makeup. Her face looked even paler reflected against the rain. The reporters surged forward like a tide, microphones thrust directly in front of her face, questions firing like bullets.
Ms. Song, how do you feel testifying against your own father, Song Boyong, in court?
Ms. Song, are you still in contact with your ex-husband, Ling Zichen?
Ms. Song, some are questioning whether you were also an accomplice in the case back then. What is your response? Song Qingyi did not say a single word. With her head bowed, escorted by lawyers and security, she passed through the crowd and headed toward the parking lot. Just as she reached the car door, she suddenly stopped in her tracks, turned around, and lifted her gaze, cutting through layer upon layer of rain to land precisely in the direction where Xiao Yichen sat. Across a street, a curtain of rain, and 3 whole months of no contact.
Did she see him?
Or did she just guess by instinct?
She did not cross the street.
She just stood there looking at him through the rain. No expression on her face, no tears in her eyes. The rain soaked her hair, and water droplets dripped from the ends of her hair onto the shoulders of her trench coat, bleeding a small patch of dark dampness into the fabric. The female lawyer beside her was urging her to get in the car. She stood there for what seemed like an eternity, and finally she lowered her head and got into the car. The thud of the car door closing was muffled, half swallowed by the rain, like a sigh. The black Audi pulled out of the parking lot, merged into traffic, and swiftly vanished into the endless gray downpour.
Let's go, Xiao Yichen said.
Where to?
West side of the city. Grandmother said she wants kanji from that shop at the south gate. Liang started the car and turned south. The rain grew heavier, fat raindrops hammering the car roof like a dense drumbeat. The windshield wipers were on full speed, but the road ahead was still a blur. Traffic crawled, wading through red light after red light. The entire city seemed to be drowning in water. His phone buzzed once.
A text message from a number he had never saved.
Zichen, thank you for not coming in today. I know you were outside. Thank you for not letting me see you in that courtroom.
If I had seen you, I would have cried.
I didn't want to cry in a place like that. Xiao Yichen stared at this message for a very long time, then deleted it. It was not hatred. It was just that some words no longer needed to be said. A week later, at the Haicheng Airport International Departures Terminal, it was Song Weiyong who told him that Song Qingyi was leaving. Song Weiyong said she had resigned from all her positions at Song Group, donated her entire 15% stake to a charitable foundation, and was planning to leave the country, to go somewhere no one knew her name and start over. Xiao Yichen did not go to see her off. Liang went. Liang took a photo with his phone and sent it to him. In the photo, Song Qingyi was standing at the security checkpoint, looking back over her shoulder. She held her passport and boarding pass in one hand, the long security line snaking behind her. Above her head, the flight information board scrolled with row after row of red text. all of them names of unfamiliar foreign cities. She was not looking at the camera. She was looking for the person she thought would be standing behind it. Xiao Yichen was not there. He deleted the photo, put down his phone, and pushed open the door to his grandmother's hospital room. Grandmother was awake, propped up in bed, looking much better than she had a month ago. Her hair had been cut short, color had returned to her cheeks, and her eyes were bright, like two old glass marbles that had been polished clean. Grandmother's bowl of century egg and lean pork congee, you had them add an extra serving of meat again. You child, always wasting money. Grandmother took the congee, had a sip, and narrowed her eyes. Still that same flavor. Xiao Yichen sat at the edge of the bed, watching her eat. Sunlight streamed in from the window, gilding grandmother's white hair as if it were dipped in gold. The hospital room was quiet and peaceful, only the soft clink of the spoon against the rim of the bowl, steady and rhythmic, like some ancient comforting beat. Zichen. Grandmother set down her spoon and looked at him.
Your father's affairs.
Are they all settled?
Xiao Yichen was silent for a moment.
All settled. Good. Grandmother nodded, picking up her spoon again. In a person's life, the debts they owe must be repaid, the wrongs they have suffered must be redressed. But once the redress is done and the debts are paid, you still have to keep moving forward with your days.
I know you haven't let it go yet.
Grandmother looked at him, and in those cloudy, aged eyes was a light he had never seen before. If you had let it go, you wouldn't be sitting in your study every single midnight, not smoking a single cigarette, not drinking a drop of alcohol, just sitting there in the dark.
Xiao Yichen said nothing.
Zichen, grandmother set down her spoon and held his hand in both of hers.
Your father is gone.
That person is gone too.
But you are still here.
You don't live for anyone else.
You live for yourself.
I know you can't figure it out right now.
That's okay.
Take your time. Grandmother is still here.
Grandmother has all the time in the world to teach you, slowly.
Xiao Yichen smiled.
Grandmother smiled too.
The sun outside was just right, warming the white walls of the hospital room, turning grandmother's white hair silver and making a picture of their clasped hands. His phone buzzed again.
A message from a Liang.
Mr. Xiao, the final documents for Huafeng's acquisition of Song Group were signed this afternoon and have taken effect.
From today onward, Song Group is officially renamed Huafeng Song Group. Also, regarding the doctor you asked me to look into.
I found her.
Xiao Yichen's fingers paused.
Where is she?
Haicheng East District Maternal and Child Health Hospital, still working as an OBGYN surgeon. Would you like to meet her, Mr.
Xiao?
Xiao Yichen stared at the phone screen for a very long time. Set up the meeting, he finally said.
He hung up the phone.
Grandmother looked up at him. More work? If it's just minor stuff, go deal with it quickly, then come back and eat with me. Xiao Yichen bent down, kissed his grandmother on the forehead, and walked out of the ward. The hallway stretched long, white lights, white walls, white floors. He walked through it, his steps steady, his breathing even. That doctor, the OBGYN at Haicheng East District Maternal and Child Health Hospital, was the person who had performed Song Qingyi's surgery 7 years ago. She had removed his child with her own hands. He had only one question to ask.
Just one.
On that operating table, had Song Qingyi hesitated? Had she ever said, I don't want to go through with this surgery? If she had hesitated, then it meant that child had existed in Song Qingyi's heart, even if only for a moment. If she had not, then so be it. Some questions do not need answers, and some answers do not need a follow-up.
No need to hold anyone accountable. No need to change anything.
It was just about giving a resolution to that blurry, tiny shadow in his heart. Haicheng East District Maternal and Child Health Hospital was a 6-story old building, its exterior painted in alternating pink and white, already peeling in places. 2 rows of plane trees were planted at the entrance. Now that autumn had arrived, their leaves had fallen all over the ground, rustling underfoot. Xiao Yichen parked the car on the roadside opposite the hospital, and did not get out right away. A Liang handed a file pouch from the front passenger seat. The information on that doctor is all inside.
Her surname is Liu, full name Liu Huifeng.
Shez worked at this hospital for almost 20 years.
Shez, an associate chief physician in the obstetrics and gynecology department.
She was the lead surgeon on that operation 7 years ago. Mr. Xiao, would you like me to accompany you inside? No need. He pushed the car door open, crossed the street, and walked into the hospital entrance. The lobby was crowded. Young parents holding children, orderlies pushing wheelchairs, family members carrying fruit baskets, the buzz of voices and the sound of crying children everywhere. The obstetrics and gynecology department was on the 3rd floor. He took the stairs, not the elevator. The hallway was much like the one in the inpatient building. white walls, white lights, the smell of disinfectant. The walls were plastered with breastfeeding promotion posters and photos of newborns, tiny pink faces squeezed into frames, all smiling at him. He walked to the entrance of the OBGYN clinic and glanced at the doctor's schedule board on the wall. Liu Huifeng, associate chief physician, consulting this afternoon. He registered, took a number, and sat down on a chair in the waiting area. Next to him sat a young man, his pregnant wife leaning against his shoulder with her large belly, the two of them speaking in low voices, occasionally laughing. Further over sat an elderly woman holding a bag of baby clothes, likely waiting for her daughter-in-law to finish a prenatal checkup. The calling system chimed. Ling Zichen, please proceed to consultation room 3. He had not used his real name to register. He had filled in Xiao Yichen, but what the system read out was the name on his ID card. He stood up, walked to the door of consultation room 3, and knocked. A woman's voice inside said, "Come." He pushed the door open. The consultation room was not large. A desk, an examination bed, an ultrasound machine. Sitting behind the desk was a female doctor in her 50s, with short hair and silver-framed glasses, her white coat spotless. The name badge read, Liu Huifeng, Associate Chief Physician, Obstetrics and Gynecology. Hello, what seems to be the problem?
Doctor.
Liu looked up at him, her eyes carrying professional politeness and a hint of puzzlement. It was rare for a man to come alone to the OBGYN clinic.
Doctor.
Liu, I'm not here to see a doctor. Xiao Yichen sat down across from her. I came to ask you about something.
Doctor.
Liu put down her pen, her puzzlement deepening.
About what?
7 years ago, a patient named Song Wan underwent an abortion procedure.
You were the lead surgeon. Doc.
Lia's expression changed. That professional smile vanished, replaced by a guarded alertness, as if something had been touched. She looked at Xiao Yichen and said nothing. That patient, Xiao Yichen, paused. Before she went into the operating room, did she hesitate? Did she ever say to you that she didn't want to go through with the surgery?
Doc.
Liu was silent for a long time. She took off her glasses and set them on the desk, rubbing the bridge of her nose. The consultation room was so quiet you could hear the ticking of the wall clock.
Who are you?
She asked. I am the father of that child. Doctor. Lia's hand stopped. She put her glasses back on and looked at Xiao Yichen, and something more entered her gaze. It was not sympathy, not worriness, but a very complex expression, one that only comes from having witnessed too much of life.
She was silent for another moment, then spoke.
That young woman. I remember her.
Xiao Yichen's fingers tightened slightly. She came alone, and she left alone. Doctor. Lia's voice was very calm, but she spoke each word slowly, as if leafing through a dusty old file. The day of the surgery, she signed the consent form herself. I asked her where her family was. She said she had no family. I asked her if she had thought it through clearly. She said she had. But I could tell. She hadn't thought it through at all.
What do you mean?
She stood outside the operating room door for a very long time. Doctor, Liu said. The nurse urged her 3 times, and she still didn't move.
Then she asked me a question.
She said, Doctor.
Liu, if this child is born, will he hate me?
Xiao Yichen's breath caught for a beat. I asked her, why would he hate you?
Doctor.
Liu looked at him.
She said, because the child's father is no longer here. I can't raise him on my own. I'm afraid when he grows up, he'll blame me. The air in the consultation room seemed to solidify.
And then?
She still went into the operating room. Doctor. Lia's voice lowered a little. She started crying the moment she lay down on the bed. During the entire procedure, she didn't say a single word. She just cried.
We doctors see too many of these situations, but that day,
I still felt a heavy weight in my chest.
Xiao Yichen said nothing. After the surgery, she lay in the recovery room for half an hour, staring at the ceiling the whole time. When the nurse came to help her up and get dressed, she suddenly grabbed my hand and asked a question. She said, Doctor, Liu, do you think that someday
he will forgive me?
At the time, I didn't know who the he she was talking about was.
Doctor. Liu looked at him.
Now I know.
Xiao Yichen lowered his head.
After a long moment, he lifted his head again. His expression had not changed at all, but the rims of his eyes were slightly red. Thank you, Dr.
Liu?
He stood up. Dr. Liu also stood up. As he reached the door, Dr.
Liu called out to him from behind.
Sir, all these years she probably hasn't had it easy either. Xiao Yichen did not look back.
He pushed the door open and walked out.
The hallway was still bustling with people. A young mother holding a newborn baby passed by him, the tiny face in the swaddle scrunched up, sleeping soundly. He stood where he was, watching that child until they rounded the corner at the end of the hallway and disappeared. He walked out of the hospital entrance. The autumn sun was beautiful, filtering through the leaves of the plane trees and dappling the ground like scattered gold. A Liang stood by the car waiting for him, and when he saw him come out, hurriedly pulled the car door open.
Mr.
Xiao, are you all right?
I'm fine.
He got into the car,
Back to the rehabilitation hospital.
After the car had driven a long way, he suddenly spoke, as if to a Liang and as if to himself.
A Liang, tell me?
In a person's life, between the wrong things they've done and the right things they've done, which one do people remember more? A Liang glanced at him through the rearview mirror, thought for a long time before answering.
Mr. Xiao, I don't know how to answer that question.
But I think
What you remember isn't what's important.
What's important is what you plan to do next.
Xiao Yichen said nothing further. He leaned back against the seat and closed his eyes. The image that surfaced in his mind was not the unfamiliar newborn in the hospital hallway, nor the words Dr. Liu had spoken in that consultation room. It was the scene in his grandmother's ward, his grandmother holding his hand and saying, "You don't live for anyone else." 3 months later, after all the merger and acquisition procedures were fully completed, Huafeng Group held its first general shareholders meeting. Xiao Yichen was elected as the new company's chairman and CEO by unanimous vote. At the meeting, he did not give a long, grand speech. He only said 3 things. The first, from today onward, Huafeng Song no longer carries the surname Song, nor the surname Zhao. It carries the surname of all its shareholders. The second, the mess Song Boyong. Left behind, I will clean up piece by piece. The third, this company's future has nothing to do with its past. After the meeting, Alang handed him the latest court bulletin. The second trial of the Song Boyong case upheld the original verdict, 18 years in prison, deprivation of political rights for 5 years, and confiscation of all personal property. The first trial of the Xiao Jinyu case was sentenced, 8 years in prison, a fine of 5 million.
Song Qingyi, a Liang paused, had a flight this morning.
She has already left Haicheng.
Her destination was New Zealand. Xiao Yichen nodded and said nothing. That evening he returned to the rehabilitation hospital. Grandmother's spirits were even better than they had been a few months ago. She could already get out of bed and walk around. She insisted on personally cooking a meal for him in the kitchen, but was stopped by the nurses. In the end, the two sides compromised. Grandmother sat and directed, while Xiao Yichen did the cooking. The kitchen light was a dim yellow, and the pork rib soup in the pot bubbled and gurgled, steam rising.
Xiao Yichen, wearing a flowery apron borrowed from the nurse's station, was flustered as he followed grandmother's instructions to add salt to the soup.
Too little. Add another half spoon.
Grandmother in her wheelchair was like a commander-in-chief.
Right.
Too much. Too much.
Grandma, exactly how much should I add? You'll know if you taste it. He scooped a small spoonful of the soup, blew on it, and took a sip. Savory, salty, with the sweet taste of pork ribs and lotus root. Exactly the same flavor as the one his grandmother had made in his childhood memories. How is it? Grandmother asked. He set down the spoon. It's still missing a little something. Just as grandmother was about to speak, Xiao Yichen crouched down, looked levelly at the grandmother in the wheelchair, and looked into her eyes. Grandma, he said, that little something it's missing. From now on, you can help me add it back, slowly. Grandmother froze for a second, then smiled. The wrinkles on her face eased open, like a chrysanthemum blooming just right in autumn. She reached out and touched his head.
All right.
Grandmother will help you add it back slowly. Outside the window, the nightscape of Haicheng was brilliantly lit. Beyond all those lights, further into the distance, lay the dark and boundless sea. At the end of that sea was a completely unfamiliar continent. At that very moment on that continent, it was early morning. There was a plane piercing through the clouds, flying toward the rising sun of the southern hemisphere, heading for a land that had never seen snow. On that plane was a woman, who had changed to a name no one would recognize, sitting in a window seat. The surname Song was no longer in her passport. She looked at the coastline growing closer outside the window, no tears in her eyes, the corner of her mouth carrying a very faint smile. There was one thing she would never know. That afternoon in the consultation room of Haicheng East District Maternal and Child Health Hospital, Dr. Liu had one last thing to say to Xiao Yichen. She had stood at the door of the consultation room and called out toward the man's back.
Wait a moment.
That young woman. Before she was wheeled into the operating room, she grabbed my hand and said one thing. She said, Dr. Liu, please, tell this child I'm sorry for me. Her whole life she's been waiting for that answer.